Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I have the luxury of being joined by my good friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com. And together we're going to talk about two wide receivers that flashed in the Chiefs' Week 1 win against the Baltimore Ravens. So the Kansas City Chiefs offense absolutely exploded in Week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. Two Chiefs wide receivers stood out to be electric wide receivers in this win. And the first one being wide receiver Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is entering his second year in the Chiefs offense. And right away, he proved to be Mahomes' number one option. He had, I believe it was 7 catches for 103 yards and really turned out to be this team's number one wide receiver in a game that featured no Hollywood Brown and very minimal Travis Kelce. So Josh, what were your thoughts on Rashee Rice's breakout game in the first week?
Yeah, Michael, he already looks so much more mature this year. He looks like he gets it. He understands how to play with Patrick Mahomes now. And he was just automatic when it came to catching those slants over the middle of the field and taking them for a first down. He had 0 drops in that game, which drops are something that he struggled with last year as a rookie. I really loved what we saw from him. The yards after the catch ability is also very special with him. And it's something that once Travis Kelce eventually retires, you're going to want to have someone that is able to produce like that in the yards after catch department. And Rashee Rice looks the part. I mean, he's so slippery too. Like that's the part people don't talk about whenever it comes to trying to tackle him. I mean, he's very slippery. He's physical. He bounces off defenders. I really love the way that he played. And I think he could potentially lead the Chiefs in catches this year.
Listen, coming into this game, I thought Rashee Rice is, one of your better options on the offense. Like, wide receiver wise, he was probably your number 2 behind Hollywood Brown. But Hollywood Brown didn't play in this game, and Rashee Rice looked like a legitimate number 1 in this game. I mean, he looked quicker. He looked like a more explosive player over the middle. I mean, you mentioned it on your channel. That slant to Rashee Rice was basically money the entire game. And part of the reason that slant worked is because you had a guy in Xavier Worthy taking the top off the defense, opening up the middle of the field for Rashee Rice to go to work. But I don't think anybody was really expecting Rashee Rice in Week 1 to make a really strong case for being this team's number 1 wide receiver.
Absolutely. I kind of saw him as a guy that if the Chiefs are going to have a wide receiver 1 this year, it was going to be him, especially building off of what he did in year 1. He was nearly a 1,000-yard receiver. I think he just has the look of a guy who has it figured out. And, I mean, some of the routes that he ran in that game to get open, I mean, they were just nasty. There was a clip going around where he faked to the left like he was going to run a whip route, and he had the defender fooled, and it allowed him to get an easy catch and takes it for a first down once again. And I think he's, again, going to have the potential to be the guy with the most catches on this offense. And he could be top 5 in receiving this year, even potentially. I mean, he's going to have that opportunity, I think, and having Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy over the top is just going to allow him to do so many things over the middle of the field.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that Rashee Rice has going for him the most is that he has that built-in connection with Patrick Mahomes. Playing with him last year, even though, he wasn't a number 1 wide receiver last year, he looked more like a number 3, but he was kind of forced to be the Chiefs' number 1. But this year, with an extra year of playing with Patrick Mahomes, he looks like a bona fide number 1 wide receiver on an offense that's going to be one of the best in the NFL. And I don't think that really anybody expected that maturity so quickly from Rashee Rice. And after the kind of offseason that he had, the whole, is he going to get suspended? Is he not going to get suspended? All of the, I guess, controversies surrounding Rashee Rice, for him to come out in Week 1 and put all of that noise to bed, I was really impressed by the performance that he put together. And I think it's only going to get stronger as we go through the season. But, like you said, he's going to have a legitimate shot to lead this team in catches, maybe even lead this team in receiving yards. And with an offense that has Travis Kelce, saying that is a bold take, but he was that good in the Week 1 win against the Ravens. And like we said, part of the reason that he was so good against the Ravens is because the Chiefs had one guy, number 1 opening up things for the entire offense. Xavier Worthy was an absolute speedster in his first NFL game. His first touch in the NFL went for a touchdown on that little jet sweep reverse where he went into the end zone untouched by anybody after getting great blocking up front. And then later on in the game, he had that play where he got behind the secondary, was wide open, and Mahomes just lofted up a ball, and he just walked into the end zone for his second touchdown on the night. But Xavier Worthy, 2 touchdowns in his debut, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. I think that he is already living up to the hype, and he's as good as advertised after week 1.
Yeah, I was on the Xavier Worthy train very early. I have been saying that he was going to be of big impact this year, especially with Hollywood Brown being out in this first stretch of the season. Although it sounds like he has a good chance to play in this next game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I still think you'll see Xavier Worthy still heavily involved in the offense, especially after his week 1 performance, because now that teams have seen what he can do, they're going to have to game plan for him. Not that they weren't already, but I mean, it's just like, oh man, the Chiefs got another one. That's just kind of what the general sentiment was coming out of this game. How did the NFL let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy? He touched the ball 3 times and 2 of them were touchdowns. I mean, that's special stuff right there in your first game. That doesn't just happen by accident. And I understand that on the touchdown catch, people say, oh, well, he was wide open, busted coverage. But I mean, still, take Sky Moore, for example. Not even he can get a busted coverage touchdown. Some guys just have that knack for scoring touchdowns, and Xavier Worthy looks like that guy early on.
When it's funny that you mentioned Sky Moore, because Sky Moore, during his time in Kansas City, has 1 touchdown to his name, and Xavier Worthy, in his first NFL game, already has 2 touchdowns in his NFL career. So he already has more touchdowns than Sky Moore does through his entire career, which is just really sad on Sky Moore's part, but really impressive from Xavier Worthy's standpoint. And listen, he's only going to get better in this offense. And that's what I think is so encouraging against a Baltimore Ravens team that has one of the best defenses in the NFL. Rashee Rice looked like a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, and Xavier Worthy looked like a pro's pro out there, just embarrassing guys that are on the best defense supposedly in the NFL. And listen, I know it's week 1 and there's still a lot of time for, opposing defenses to figure out this Chiefs offense. We're going to get Hollywood Brown back into the mix, who's basically a more proven Xavier Worthy. And Travis Kelce had a pretty quiet game in the win. So he's only going to get better and have more games where, he just breaks off some big time catches and he gets in the end zone. And so it's just going to make this offense that much more difficult to stop. But Josh, I got a question for you. Who do you think was more impressive in the week 1 win? Do you think it was Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice? I think it's a hard question.
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot there. I think you have to go with Xavier Worthy only because of what he was able to do in such little touches. Rashee Rice obviously is more experienced, more seasoned. He's going to get the bulk of the touches, the bulk of the targets, I think. But Xavier Worthy, what he was able to do, just having 2 catches and then 1 carry because the jet sweep touchdown was considered a carry. I mean, he's an efficient scorer already, it looks like, Michael.
Josh, listen, it's 1 week and we can't blow this performance out of proportion, but in 1 week, I think he's been more explosive than Mecole Hardman has ever been. I think he's been better than Sky Moore has ever been. And so,
that's not hard to do, though.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to say that Xavier Worthy is already a bona fide superstar, but listen, the groundwork is there. I think if he gets half the production on the amount of carries that he has, those are only going to go up. He's going to be a problem for other teams to stop. And listen, for all of the times where he would just run straight down the field and take members of that defense away, it just opened up, opportunities for Rashee Rice over the middle. And if it's not Rashee Rice in future games, it's going to be Travis Kelce. And guess what's going to happen when Hollywood Brown joins the mix? And you got 2 guys that are running straight for the end zone. Eventually, that is going to wear down a defense. And the Chiefs are going to have a couple of those touchdowns that they saw with Xavier Worthy in week 1, those busted coverages where he's wide open because that speed just wears down an opposing team's defense.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of busted coverages, I feel like, this year, Michael, because there's just so many guys to worry about on the Chiefs offense. And we talked about it on my channel, how
Yes.
Travis Kelce had a quiet game, but you can afford him having a quiet game in this year's offense because you now have those guys and Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. And that's not even mentioning Hollywood Brown, who, when he comes back, he's going to draw a lot of attention deep. And it's going to open up so much more.
Absolutely. And I think that is just so exciting from an offensive perspective. And I said this on your channel. In 1 week, Josh, we saw an offense that we were begging for all of last season. And they did it in 1 week. In week one, a week where they're still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. And most of these guys did not play in the preseason. So the fact that we are seeing, this type of offensive production in just week one, it's only going to get better from this point on. And that is a scary thing, considering that the magic number for this Chiefs offense last year was 25 points. They got 27 in their first game. They play Cincinnati this week at home. I only expect that number to keep going up. And I don't even know how Cincinnati is going to go about game planning, stopping Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. And who knows if you add Hollywood Brown back into the mix. But, going back to that week one performance, just to wrap it up, I think that Xavier Worthy showed everybody that, he's not just a gadget guy. He's a guy that could be a legitimate producer on a team that is trying to win their third straight Super Bowl. And I think that Rashee Rice showed that he's not a number 3. He's not a number 2. In the right situation, if he is being utilized correctly, he's a number 1 wide receiver. 7 catches for 103 yards is no joke against that Ravens defense. And listen, he's only going to get better too. This is his first game in the second season of his career. He has gotten better every single game that he has played. And so who knows what he's going to be like in week 7 or 8. And so the Chiefs offense, they're cooking up something mighty dangerous. And that is the speed that kills and the talent over the middle that they haven't had in a long time.
I also think most notably about Rashee Rice in this game. Last year as a rookie, a lot of his production came on behind the line of scrimmage passes, screen plays. I don't think we saw a single screen play to Rashee Rice. All of his production, all of the damage done was in the vertical passing game and over the middle of the field. And that has to be what's most encouraging. I mean, it's already been a massive step forward for him.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing is as you go on in the 2024 season, are both of these guys taking a step forward with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, not taking a step back? And I think that the safe assumption is that both of these players are going to make pretty massive strides towards being, great wide receivers this year, because I think that Patrick Mahomes, he's going to bounce back. He's, more rejuvenated to have a good season because you finally put the weapons around him to be successful. And listen, I think that we are set for a pretty exciting offensive season where who knows, maybe Xavier Worthy gets 750 to 800 yards, maybe even more. I think Rashee Rice is, barreling towards that 1,000-yard season. And that is, if you would have told us this last year, we would just be ecstatic. But we're in this position right now where the Chiefs have not just one guy, not even really just 2 guys that are great at the wide receiver position. You're going to get Hollywood Brown back, and you have 3 wide receivers that legitimately are going to terrify NFL defenses. So, Josh, do you have anything else you want to add before we get out of here? I mean, we've kind of talked pretty much everything about these 2 from that week 1 game, but was there anything else that stood out to you that, we haven't mentioned?
Not really. I just think it's going to be an extremely fun season, and this offense is going to be a lot more fun to watch than they were last year, and that is music to Chiefs fans' ears.
Absolutely. I mean, they're already more fun to watch, and as we go through this season, I think that we're going to have a lot more fun moments, and it's going to keep the Chiefs fans glued to the television a lot longer. So, Josh, my final question for you is, where can the people find you?
You can find me here on YouTube, Show Me Football. Check out my work on showmefootball.com, arrowheadaddict.com. And then, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
All of Josh's stuff will be linked in the description below. As for me, obviously subscribe to me here on YouTube. You're already here. You might as well do it. Like, comment so we know what to do next. Also follow me on TikTok, KC_sports report. That is a new endeavor that I'm trying out. Instagram, KC_sports reports are the same as the TikTok. And then Twitter is at KC Sports Report. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.